I have spent quite a lot of time trying to figure out the meaning behind the beginner's guide. I started making this video with the intention to explain that meaning to you, the viewer. But I still haven't figured out the meaning. I still haven't figured out the intention. I still haven't figured out what to view it as. So, quite simply, I've taken the game as it is presented to the player. The whole adventure, start to finish, including the epilogue, what it suggests, what it means to say, and what it means to me. And I've written down what I can grasp and what I believe I understand, so that I may relay it to you, to the best of my ability. But this will, by no means, be the definitive interpretation of this game. In fact, I can quite confidently say, here and now, that I am wrong about this game. I know I must be. So, with that being said, I will tell you exactly what the Beginner's Guide is about. The game was released and subsequently takes place, as it were, 4 years after the release of Coda's last game to Reedon, The Tower. Reedon has decided to compile Coda's works to show to people so that it may gain some attention, so that Coda may see that his work is loved, adored, and that it means something, and that it might convince him to make games again. And he believes that the best way to show people what this work means is to explain it to them. Reedon then proceeds to act as any art critic may in a museum, or an English teacher may about a work more than 50 years old. He goes about explaining the themes, the meaning, and why it was made the way it was.
This game is called Escape from Whisper, and it's one of the more generic games you'll see from Coda. Yup, in this game you can only walk backwards.
Reedon leads the player from game to game, displaying the quirks and oddities of them before moving on with his point, a segue so he may explain the next part and avoid the player becoming entrenched in some odd element of the game, such as first having you die in Whisper instead of experiencing the game as it was meant to be experienced, or letting you out of a prison more than even half an hour before you are meant to. And he makes a mistake in his interpretation. Not because he must, and not out of cruelty. He makes a mistake because he isn't Coda, and he didn't make the game. You'll soon come to learn that not all was as Coda designed it to be. Reedon had cut short an infinite loop of the cleaning game. You're told that the notes game isn't connected to the internet, even though it wanted to suggest otherwise. You complete the Mobius game despite it asking you to play with your eyes closed. You don't experience the shock of floating when stepping into the teleporter. You don't interpret it as a metaphor for death. You are told and thus assume that it is a glitch, and you have in fact done something different than dying. You don't wait for the prison to let you out. You don't wait an hour to see what will happen, and you don't give up along the wait and assume that this is where the game ends. You don't play the cleaning loop for long enough to wonder if that's the entire game. You don't read all the notes because you know they were all written by the same person and that nothing special happens if you read all of them. You know what the character on the bridge in the Mobius game says, something you shouldn't know if you played the game the way the game asked you to, and you never play all of the big empty rooms that Coda sent Davy because Davy didn't feel like they said anything. If The Stanley Parable, Davy's previous game that he worked on with William Pugh, or Pug, with William Pugh, with William, is a game where you should always be digging to find new options, secrets, and hidden gems, then The Beginner's Guide is a game that tells you that there is nothing to find, like any guide video about The Stanley Parable might, or any reviewer might tell you about any game ever. It optimizes your time, which ruins the point of so many games, so many experiences. The very act of searching for something new is robbed from the player, leaving them with only one last choice: to stay and finish, or to quit. Davy went through those experiences and decided, for both himself and anyone who plays, what they meant. what they meant and if they were worth exploring. He put upon this piece of art his interpretation through his worldview. As Coda rightly puts in The Tower, what Davy suggests really says more about Davy than about Coda. And when you play the game, you yourself are also instilling upon it your vision of what everything means, of what is worth searching. And I've done the same. Even now, I sit wondering what would happen if I read all the notes and I have no interest, because I was explicitly told it does nothing. And I am now presenting to you what I believe to be the meaning. Remember what I said when we started? I can quite confidently say here and now that I am wrong about this game. I know I must be.